Hello and welcome to the 27th episode of Planetos Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the fans of George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire and HBO's A Game of Thrones. Spoiler warning, this show will cover all material. The books, the show, the histories, the lore, and the interviews with the showrunners and George himself. I'm one of your hosts, Brett. You can find me on Twitter at HomelyPillow.
And I'm your other host, Travis. You can find me at Sear_Travis on Twitter. We hope you enjoy today's show. So we're finally back. We've been on a little hiatus, unfortunately, with family and summer and vacations and work. It's taken us a little bit to get back into the groove. We've come off like everyone else in the podcasting world. I was actually listening to the Night's Cast. They dropped a episode earlier late last week. We're recording on Sunday, July 7th, I think it is. And they took a little break, but they're getting ready to go to Con of Thrones. Brett, are you going to Con of Thrones? I know you were going to try.
I wanted to, but with everything that's going on this week and birthday week and all that, I'm not going to be able to. I really want to, though. I'm really sad because it's only like 2 hours away from me. But
yeah, that would be a great trip. And unfortunately, I won't be there either. I'm going to be at the beach with my family. But we had a lot of fun at Ice and Fire Con.
Yeah,
and not that this one is better. This one is just so much bigger. There are actors there. There are a lot of the fan community, but I loved myself at Ice and Fire Con, and I think it was the perfect first Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire convention for me because it was small, it was intimate. We had such a blast. I think so. One day we'll be at Con of Thrones.
I think honestly, I think I chose the correct one to go to. Because to me, Con of Thrones feels more like Dragon Con, and while Dragon Con is awesome, which I've been a few times, that it's so big. I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah, you'll find stuff you like, but unless you know a bunch of people going, it's not intimate at all. But it really is sad because I will be in North Carolina this week during the week, but yeah. But I'm gonna come back Thursday night or Friday morning. So
yeah. Well, you'll be leaving North Carolina as I arrive in North Carolina, it sounds like, on Friday for the beach.
Probably, so, yeah.
Yeah, so cool. Well, we're not here to talk about Con of Thrones and relive our late night, early mornings of Ice and Fire. I was watching, I was following Lady Triples, which we need to have her on the podcast soon.
Yeah.
But Lady Triples, like she's going to like 5 cons in the next like 3 months. I'm like, she will not survive. No, actually, she will survive, but there's places that she will visit will not survive. Oh God, what a wonderful person! But
I don't know. She's a survivor, I think.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like she will make it out of Worldcon. She will make it out of Con of Thrones, Titan Con, wherever the hell she's going. She's going to all those. But again, we're not here tonight to talk about the cons and all that. We're here to jump back into our minor character analysis. And I'm really excited to get back into this. We've been doing a few of these. We started several months ago with an episode on Orain Waters. We had one on Barbary Dustin, one on the Tattered Prince, one on Jason Mallister. But this one's a bit different. We're going to talk about 3 minor characters today. And you might be asking, why are we talking about 3? Well, we have a special guest, and we're going to each be covering an individual minor character, and we'll be discussing those individuals, and then we'll be talking at the end a little bit about speculation. But like I said, we've got a special guest with us here tonight, Micah Clark, a great friend on Twitter, a follower of many of the podcasts out there, and members of the fandom, like all of us. I think we all interact on a daily basis in the Song of Ice and Fire community, just having fun on Twitter.
Me not so recently, but I'm trying.
Yeah. You're trying to get back in there. But Micah, welcome to the program. Tell the folks out there where they can find you on social media and a little bit about yourself.
Hello, guys. I'm Micah. I'm that rando guy that just showed up on Twitter one day and started following everybody. You can find me at Micah_of Clark. I'm not really a Reddit writer or any of those guys, and some others are out there, and I'm not linked to any of the main podcasts. But it's great to be invited on here.
It's great to have you. I did not
expect to get that one Twitter from Travis. I said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" I was like, "Heck yeah!" I'm a lover of all the broad characters, but especially the minor characters of Song of Ice and Fire, because there are some in there that don't get talked about enough. Frankly, Leathers and a couple other characters that we're going to have showing up in our podcast today.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I forgot about Leathers, but yes, that's a great character too.
Everyone forgets about Leathers, and I will remind everyone.
I'm frantically Googling Leathers right now, like, oh shit, who's that again? That's great. I love it. Micah, you are a great follow on Twitter. Everyone should follow Micah. I know you say I'm not really involved in podcasting or fan. You have some great takes on Twitter, so everyone give Micah a follow and let's get this started. Again, we're going to do something different. We're going to try and do three of these minor characters, and we picked some interesting ones. So the format is going to go. Brett is going to talk about the minor character that he chose. We'll then move into Micah's choice and my choice, and we'll discuss those together as a group. And then at the end, we'll discuss where these three minor characters might find themselves in The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring.
Yeah.
So, Brett, introduce your character.
So my character's a bit of an odd one. I mean, like Jamie, he's kind of an odd guy. On the outside, he seems like a complete and utter douche, and he still might be. But his motivations might be a little odd, or they might be straightforward. But he's got an odd way of going about things, and he doesn't have a huge impact on the story per se, like the overarching story. But mine is Hyle Hunt, which he is he's discussed a lot throughout the fandom, and a lot of people have some hot takes on him, and rightfully so, because he is an asshole. We'll start with this physical description. He's described as gallant, eloquent, stubborn, and he's languid, young. He's got a plain face, brown hair, hazel eyes, cleft chin, crooked nose, scar. He's got a scar near his left ear. He's a head shorter than Brienne. Brienne is around 6'6", like 6.5 feet tall. So the rough estimate, he's about 5'8". So, average height. And he's got a full, rich laugh. This is something very interesting I've caught on to him is he has one known bastard that apparently he recognizes, because the last time he visited her, his girl's mother doused him with a kettle of soup. He's just he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, let's jump in and discuss. Micah, I know you've mentioned that you have a lot to say on Sir Hyle Hunt, so why don't you get us started?
Yeah, he's been a character that I have wanted, that I was interested in from when he showed up in Brienne's story. Because when I was first reading A Feast for Crows, I had known ahead of time that there was a whole split, and I knew that Feast was going to be different and introduce new characters, so I was all ready for that. And I also recognized pretty much on point what Brienne's arc would be about in A Feast for Crows. And Hyle brings an interesting aspect in that he is a knight and an asshole, and Brienne faces that he is not technically a true knight in the eyes of the real chivalrous, honor-bound characters like Brienne. He does bring an interesting contrast, though, to Lord Randall Tarley.
Yeah.
Everyone brings an interesting
most people do, right?
Most people are like better people.
Right.
In that Hyle Hunt seems to care a bit for Brienne, and he recognizes her sword skills and doesn't view her as a woman in front of that. Whereas I was reading a scene and talking with Travis earlier where Hyle Hunt is like, yeah, she's great. She's an awesome sword fighter. I watched her beat those 3 bloody mummers. And Randall Tarley's like, no, her sword did that. It danced around and killed them.
Yeah.
Interesting contrast between the two. And I really think that Hyle seems to have some appreciation for Brienne's skills. Whereas it is, of course, pretty laid out that he wants to marry her and become Lord Tarth, or get some lands as a reward.
Right.
But then there is also this aspect where he does recognize her skill and doesn't completely objectify her as a woman. I find this quite interesting.
Yeah, at least Westeros standards are concerned. He's not. I mean, what he says is very damaging, like outright. But I mean, it's not good. You know, he's not a good guy. But he's sort of like Jaime in that aspect when you first meet Jaime. I mean, Jaime's just just straight up. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities between them too. Like they can't stop doing good, even though, I mean, Jaime just thinks he's a terrible person and that's why he does it. But they seem to find themselves caring about Brienne in a weird way. Something that I read today, and actually, let me, because I read some of the chapters today, but this poster on Reddit, it's AOW Shadow. He's got an interesting take on it. I don't think I'm as lenient on him or on Hyle Hunt as this poster is, but he's got some good takes on it. One thing he noticed is like while Hyle Hunt did start that whole game to try to win her over, you know, everyone else was giving her like flowers and like doing this stuff, like just these, giving her these unpersonal gifts. And Hyle Hunt like actually like took the time to get to know her, talk to her, gave her gifts that she would actually like, which is weird. It's so strange that he's so mean to her, but then does this. And something he did throw out was maybe he, which is still a bad thing to do, but maybe he does actually like her, but just didn't want to say that in front of the other knights. So he made the game up to.
That's a good take. Yeah.
But then Dickon heard about the game and I think Dickon was trying to be nice and tells Randall about this game that's going on, and then, you know, Randall stops it, but then he blames Brienne, you know, which is, you know, it's weird. That I don't know that. Well, it's not weird, but it's just weird that he put it into it. But then,
now that that was if I'm getting the timeline right, that was during when they were in Renly's camp, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll just make sure, because Hyle Hunt as a character doesn't come into the story until A Feast for Crows in Brienne's chapters when she encountered Randall Tarly is it Maidenpool or Fairmarket? I can't remember.
Maidenpool.
Well, she encounters Hyle first because he's in charge of one of the gates that she's coming through. Yeah. Another interesting thing about Hyle is he actually saved he actually saved Sam Tarly from drowning. Yeah,
I noticed that too.
And that's just, I mean, I don't know if that was something nice he did to be nice or what, but I mean, there's several times where, I mean, Hyle Hunt just straight up stands up to Randall Tarly and tells him how it is. Like it's kind of, it goes along. I'm all over the place with this, but
oh no, you're fine.
It's it just goes into the true knight, like what makes a true knight, and he's like overly honest a lot of the times, even straight to Randall Tarly's face.
I'll be reading that.
So
he kind of reminds me sort of as kind of a proto Davos to Stannis, or even a Justin Massey to Stannis. I mean, Justin Massey definitely doesn't get in Stannis' face and say some of the things that, and I'm not saying how Hunt gets in Randall's face, but like you said, he's very honest. Justin Massey is not that, but in a sort of dynamic of where those knights, that level of leadership below the Lord or the King or whatever, that's their purpose, is to give other options, to give advice, to push back when they think they're making, an incorrect choice, etc.
Which
that just kind of stood out to me in rereading some of the chapters that he's in.
Which you're not off base there, because that's the number one person he's compared to is Justin Massey. I just haven't paid attention enough to him to really get a feel for him.
Yeah, and that sort of parallels, the fact that Hyle Hunt is after Brienne, sort of parallels Justin Massey after Asha's hand in marriage.
Yeah, that's an interesting parallel between the two.
Yeah. One of the things, you mentioned this, Brett, that the gifts that he gives Brienne, and maybe it is the Jaime thing that is shaping my worldview of him. Like, I think he's an asshole. I think he's a dick. I think he's a misogynist, as most men are in this world. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily think he's the Renly type or the other knights of Renly's camp toward Brienne. I think you might be onto something where he potentially might generally care. Now, there's also an ulterior motive. For a knight of his stature, Tarth would be a sapphire. If we can use and we can use how it's described.
And he does talk a lot about like riches and stuff, but at the same time, he sees that he tries to get Pod to take a helmet, and doesn't think twice. I mean, he does talk about like what he could do with all this land and stuff. So it could be both. I mean, he could be after both.
And again, in this time period, love isn't necessarily what we consider it. Or a relationship, definitely, or even marriage is definitely not what we consider marriage now. This is about trying to raise your station. And that's the way, unfortunately, the men of this period would view themselves. And they're, and Brienne is she's an only daughter to Selwyn Tarth. And so she's going to inherit the island. She's going to inherit the lands.
So,
not defending that, but his mindset may not just be, I'm going to use this woman or whatever. I think it's part of that.
It's weird too. Oh, so here are the gifts he gave Brienne.
Yeah, too. I want you to talk about this because I do really like this.
Yeah,
I was going to mention that I love the gifts that he gives Brienne.
Well, so he gave her an illuminated book, apples and carrots for horses, a blue silk plume for a helm. He told her about the camp gossip and said things to make her smile. there was something else Brienne said is he was even willing to spar with her, which meant more than any of that. Yes. Which is like, I don't know. It's so weird. He's a weird guy. And then he just like, it's.
Yeah, I know.
Now, does he get dismissed from Randall's service, or refuse to leave?
It's like a combination of the two, because I was just reading that chapter and he was like, yeah, I was about done with Randall, and then he was like, I'm tired of your insolence.
Yeah.
Get out of my town.
So now he's operating as a hedge knight.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's with Brienne. And so he is with her when she takes on Rorge and Biter in that group.
Yeah, there's a sentence where she's like, oh, look, there's Sir Hyle. I better get back to fighting this guy.
Right. He helps bury Nimble Dick Crab.
Yes, yeah, he does do that, which is...
And then he's captured by the Brotherhood Without Banners and Lady Stoneheart after in Brienne's last chapter in A Feast for Crows.
And during that time, his face gets beaten so bad that Brienne sees him as unrecognizable, or almost. It's really funny, though, just when Davos Fingers covers these chapters, just listening to Scad talk about Hyle Hunt. He just goes through these like steps in his head throughout like each episode. Like, yeah, he does this, but God, he's just like, but then he does this, and like he's like having a hard time, like, just pinning this character down, which is how I feel about him.
Another slightly weird thing he does is, he makes this comment about how, while you're sleeping, I might come into your room and take you and show you just how much of a man I am, sort of thing, which in Westeros, a lot of them do.
Yeah.
A lot of characters would do that. But when Brienne says no, he listens.
Yeah.
He doesn't come in and then go, oh, Brienne, or anything like that.
Right.
It's just
Again, I think that he does respect her, but I also think he fears her.
Yeah,
because I think he thinks, she could beat my ass.
Well, the thing is too. Well, the thing is too, though, I don't think he fears her, because he talks about. He says something about there's no way. What's the Royce guy that dies? Robar. He talks about how Robar was twice the fighter Brienne is. Well, and they've sparred, so he knows, how Brienne, and he calls out like how Brienne fights. She if someone oversteps, she kind of traps them, and like she kind of plays it cautious, but waits for, sort of like kind of like Dunk, but Dunk thinks he does it, but doesn't really. But
he studied her. He studied her then.
Which
goes back to your point that he's putting thought into every move he makes with her.
Yes.
I want to pose a question about House Hunt to you all.
Okay.
So House Hunt is a vassal of House Tarly, and we know that House Tarly's sigil is a huntsman. House Hunt's sigil is a brown deer bound, slung upside down on a pole on a white field. So they have obviously the same roots you can see as House Tarly, that they take their name and their sigil from probably what they did. They hunted deer. They, were hunters just like House Tarly. Mm-hmm. But I just wonder what your thought may be. Is House Hunt perhaps a house of firstmen lineage? And I ask that because Hunt is such a Stark name, not Stark as in the Starks of Winterfell.
Well, it is Stark. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a very evocative name of just like what you are. The Starks, the Flints, the Hunts. It's not this kind of fanciful name, Baratheon, Aaron, Florent, Tolly, all these type of names that you see. And so I just wonder, is their name just a derivative of, we became long ago there was a knight that served House Tarly and he was raised up and he took the name Hunt because that's what we did? Or were they a firstman house that the Tarleys conquered and they became a vassal to them, or a combination of the two even? What do you think just about that? That's just something that popped up into my mind as I was reading a little bit about House Hunt.
I would think it could be a knight did something great, and House Tarly was like, we'll give you lands for that, my dude. And they were like, now you shot for it.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of them being first men. Can't wait for George to write his novel about that. But
yeah. That's an interesting thought, because I mean you get Davos, Seaworth, and it seems like a lot of the small folk are kind of just they choose firstman names, so it's kind of weird. Like it could be I don't know.
Well, I mean, for the small folk, they don't all get their illiteracy or any of that, so they could just be like, first thing they see, a rock.
Yeah.
I'll belong to House Rock. Why not?
Yeah.
Which is probably how a lot of the first men named their last names too. So
Right.
Well, it's and it's even true in our own Western European culture.
Smiths, the Millers.
Millers. Yeah, it's all derivative of what you did, what your profession was. So it was just a thought I had. I thought it was
it is interesting though, because he just, he kind of comes out of nowhere. I mean, a little bit, and he only, I don't know. It'd be kind of cool if he had a bigger impact on this, like his family had a bigger impact.
It'd be neat to find out, like they were once a small firstman house, and the Tarleys, if they were Andals or whatever, came and conquered them or something like that.
Yeah. So another thing. I just want to read something. It's not much, but it's just okay. It's kind of, I just found it funny. But you have Randall Tarly saying to Hyle Hunt, he goes, "Beg all you want, I will not suffer you beneath my roof." And Hyle Hunt goes, "If you please, my lord, I had understood that this was still Lord Mooton's roof." And then that speech kind of goes on, because he's just like, Randall Tarly insults Lord Mooton after that, but it's just it's just like, wow, like, I don't know. It's just kind of funny hearing someone talk to Randall Tarly that way.
Can you imagine talking to Stannis that way? But then I think I would rather talk to Stannis that way than I would rather than talk to Randall Tarly like that.
Well, it's like talking to Tywin that way, like,
and you lose everything you got.
I think Randall Tarly is still the scarier one, because I think he would take satisfaction in having you gelded in front of him.
Gelded was easy though.
But see, the thing is,
well, I mean, for Randall, that would be too.
Okay. I was like, no, it would not be.
But
that's true.
I'm like, why does he keep reminding me of Ramsay?
But but the thing is with Randall Tarly, I think he likes like masculine people. So like when you do stand up to him, I think he's like, all right, this guy. Like, I feel like he wishes Sam would do it, but Sam's so scared of him, he can't even stomach him.
Right.
And also, Randall says some pretty terrible things to Brienne. I don't know why I didn't write the quote down, but basically, he's like, what, like some men are blessed with daughters, some men are blessed with sons, but no man deserves to be blessed with the likes of you, or something like that. Mm. And I really think he's thinking about Sam in that situation when he's talking to her. Because he's saying like, I wouldn't deserve you. And he's going around telling people Sam's dead.
Yeah, and that's an interesting take from I'm not defending Randall Tarley here at all, but if you think at it, I'm sure Brienne's gender pisses him off.
Yeah.
But also the fact that he sees this woman who is very skilled and is presented and very honorable and is presented with evidence from people he no doubt trusts telling him, Brienne defeated these people. Brienne did this. He's probably thinking, why did Sam not grow up to be a man where this woman is a man in his eyes?
It could be.
So I'm sure that really gets on his nerves.
It could be a double thing too, because Hyle Hunt saved Sam, and then now Hyle Hunt is kind of vouching for Brienne.
Yeah,
and now maybe he wanted Sam to drown. It's
probably.
just. Yeah,
Randall probably did.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird thing. So that could be like him just Hyle Hunt really getting on his nerves with it. I don't know, but he's just a super interesting character, and maybe there's something there with him actually sticking his neck out for Sam, and then later on Brienne, as much of a douche as he is, because he is a douche. I mean,
right.
His actions may not be douchey, but I mean, the way he talks to Brienne is awful. But yeah, I mean, in that world, it's not as bad, but it's still bad.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on Hyle Hunt?
No, I hope he survives that hanging.
All right. Let's wait. We're gonna talk about that at the end.
Talk about that later. I got a theory on that.
Okay. I'm very excited about this. Micah told me that, and I was like, "Oh yes, I love theories." All right.
I got loads of winter theories.
Okay. Is this your own theory? Or
maybe, I don't know.
Well, did you just thought of it? You thought of it on your own? Because I was on my own. Okay, because I was looking for theories, like some tinfoil theories and stuff. I couldn't find any, and I was like, "Dang it!"
Yeah,
I mean,
all three of these
minor ones. But.
Yeah, there's some minor stuff out there about these three characters, but nothing. There's not these exhaustive Jon Snow essays or Daenerys Targaryen essays at all. So I think this is what I love about these minor characters.
Same.
I mean, there are some minor characters. I mean, think about the Lady Dustin episode. That there was so much to talk about, and there was so much really good analysis done by some people. But she's just she's going to really affect what happens in the North. But anyways, let's move to our second minor character. And Micah, you have the honor of presenting.
Well, he's from everyone's most popular house to hate. I've chosen Black Walder Frey.
Now I have to stop you there, because if our friend Pat Dougherty is listening, he fucking loves House Frey. So if you and everyone should follow Pat on Twitter, but he stands House Frey. And when I first started following him, I was like, who would follow House Frey? But he convinced me at Ice and Fire Con. I was okay, that makes sense. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead, Micah.
No, it's good. It's good. The house has a few likable characters. You got Perwyn, Oliver, and Rosalind, and I think that's about it.
Yeah. And that's saying something. Like,
Fat Walda is the sweetest thing. Come on.
She squeals.
She did not deserve to eat that pie.
She probably liked it. Anyways, all right, Micah, Black Walder Frey, proceed.
Black Walder Frey is, in my opinion, the most evil of the Freys because of his actions, which we'll get into. But he isn't given a lot of description from the books. I didn't use Wikipedia like other people do.
I was on a time crunch. Okay.
So he's wiry, and he has like a beard, and he's very hot-tempered. And that's about all that the books give for his description. I kind of like to imagine him. I saw a drawing of him from, I forget their name, that one artist that has like all those really cool drawings of the characters that even like, I think they have like Pretty Maris. But I like to picture him kind of like Tim Curry. With the little black beard and just like that stupid grin. And
dude, yeah, Tim Curry could definitely fit in the phrase.
That Home Alone 2 grin.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about? Or
yeah.
Transitions from the Grinch to Tim Curry. Yeah, that's a perfect grin. I could see Black Walder looking like that.
But Black Walder, throughout all of his actions in all the books that he sort of appears in, he shows up in A Storm of Swords, in Catelyn's second to last chapter of Storm, and then in Feast for Crows, he's in the background, but he's doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Some pretty bad things. And we'll get into Feast for Crows, but when he's first mentioned and brought up is when Robb is talking about the crag and when he took it. He marries Jane Westerling and brings up Black Walder as seeing Jane Westerling, the new queen, and going, geez, it would be too bad if my sisters were to wed a widower. That's our first impression of Black Walder Frey. Threatening to kill his new queen.
Wow.
Goes through some other things too. When he's during the wedding, he's seen wrestling with Harris Hay or High. I don't really know how to pronounce that house name because there's a G and an H in there for some reason.
George said however you want. I don't know. I'm not good with it either.
and then afterwards, he and Ryman, the incompetent one, show up behind Catelyn when they're about this sort of stuff. You don't really get mentions of him elsewhere except for when they're like, oh yeah, he and Lothar, they planned the whole thing. It was totally just them.
Yeah.
But after that, he takes Seaguard, which is a notable thing. And how he does it is by, because they captured Patrick Mallister, the son and heir, and then they brought him over to Seaguard and said, Jason, open your gates or I'm going to hang your son. And of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Black Walder was that one.
Oh, God. So he's, Okay, continue. Sorry.
We're going to reference another one of your guys' episodes now. Because that's when Jason Mallister rightfully opened his gates and now he's a prisoner in his own castle.
Yeah.
Going into a Feast for Crows. Black Walder tries to hunt down the Brotherhood without banners and proceeds in doing so, following them all the way up to the neck and then coming down. And then he comes down south after he loses him somewhere. So, they lost him, then they went back down south, and he's coming down after them. So he disappears for a little bit, and then when Jaime takes River Run, he's talking with some of the rando Freys, specifically Edwin, who is the heir to the crossing after Ryman dies. House Frey is incredibly confusing.
But there's so many of them. I mean, and they all have like, the Rhaegar Frey, and they keep naming them after famous people.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got Tywin and a Cersei Frey.
See,
Edwin,
oh my God.
there's a lot. So where was I? Oh, yeah. So Edwin Frey is terrified of Black Walder because Black Walder is in line after him.
Mm-hmm.
And Black Walder isn't exactly the family caring kind of person. He's also known for taking the wives of his brothers and cousins, or his half-brothers and cousins.
Yep.
Another interesting fact, and Edwin fears that Black Walder may kill him to take the crossing.
Yeah, because just so the listeners know, Walder Frey's heir was Sir Stevron, who died at Oxcross fighting with Robb. Stevron's son is Ryman, whose son is Edwin and Black Walder Frey, and then I think there's another one. Ryman, I think, has been killed either must have been A Feast for Crows.
Yeah, he was killed shortly before that.
Because Jamie hears about it.
Yeah, it's like that exact scene is Walder Rivers shows up. I only remember that it's Rivers Walder because I read it. He shows up and he's like, dude, Ryman and his men are all dead. Oh, another interesting thing about that is that he figures the reason how Stoneheart knew that Ryman and his men would be there, and there's only 30 of them, is because somehow Black Walder would have known. And that's an interesting thing that Walder Rivers and Edwin both bring up. It's Edwin that makes that connection because he's terrified of Black Walder. Rightfully.
That's interesting.
It's Shades of Euron.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's like it's like the redneck Euron.
He's just a beta Euron.
I think the Greyjoy's a little redneck too, but
a little too much sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please stop being the stereotype. But yeah, Black Walder has quite a bit of info on him, and probably like up there for like top 5 most info on a Frey. Because there's a lot that just sort of appear randomly that don't really do all that much. Edwin, Walder Rivers, and Stevron has 1 on-page appearance, I think, maybe 2, and he dies off-page. But Black Walder gets a lot of.
Yeah, I think that would actually be a fun episode to do, is to dive into the Frey. the
I'm sure
Freys.
Travis would love diving into the Freys.
I think it would be interesting. I mean, they're definitely from book 1, they're pivotal house and pivotal actors in the game. So I find them fascinating. I'm kind of like other people when, I first watched season 1 and everything. Walder Frey was just kind of this grumpy old guy. I was like, oh, this guy's an asshole. He's a disgusting, lecherous old man. And then he did that, and I was like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, like you didn't think he was that bad.
No, I didn't. No. Right. What else on Black Walder Frey?
Yeah, he's known to have bedded the wives of specifically Merritt and Edwin Frey.
Yep.
He's got this long rivalry, it seems, with specifically Edwin, who is his half-brother.
Merritt's the one that gets killed by Lady Stoneheart, right? That has the headaches.
Yeah, he's the epilogue guy who's kind of like, ugh, my life is so sad.
Yeah.
Why does everything suck? Where's my brother? Oh.
Yeah, you feel so sorry for him, and then he dies, and that reveal, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell?
Right.
Why do I feel bad for this guy? But you're right. Merritt has been so mistreated, and like you said, that Black Walder is an especially strong arm of this family to mistreat other people. And in fact, I think I kind of read that there's a lot of potential for some of the legitimacy of some of his rivals to be questioned because he has slept with their families.
Wow.
Or with their wives.
God.
Yeah.
That's just that's Greyjoy vibes right there.
Yeah.
Blackwater also is probably going to get killed by Stannis or the Manderleys and wins a winner.
I think Stannis is going to come south of the neck.
Wait, no, it's not Blackwater. Who's up north?
You're thinking of Hostine.
Hostine Frey. Black Walder is he's south of the neck.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right.
He's south of the neck.
God, this is how rusty I am.
There's so many of them.
I get it. I get a pass with the phrase, but
so yeah, I mean, I think this is where potentially the previous minor character story arc and this minor character story arc could kind of overlap. And we can talk a little bit about speculation when we move, to the end of the podcast. But there is a lot of potential here for Black Walder to take advantage of whatever could befall Walder Frey or the other members of his family, or the situation with Lady Stoneheart and the Lannister army and the Riverland. I mean, there's so much potential here that, he could see his status improve even more significantly, or it could all come crashing down on them if, especially if whatever Brienne and Jaime do and whatever happens to the Lannister army that's marching west.
Yeah, his last known location is an interesting one, if you believe certain winter theories, is that he is traveling, I believe, he's just south of the Red Fork, and he's continuing to try to hunt down the Brotherhood. It puts him it puts him in close proximity to Riverrun and Pennytree specifically.
Oh.
So you got all the minor characters around the Riverlands specifically are pretty much like in very close quarters. The Brotherhood, everyone in Riverrun, Emmon Frey and Davin Lannister and Gemma and all those guys, they're in a couple days ride from each other, essentially.
It makes a lot of sense with the way George wanted to end A Dance with Dragons. I mean, they're going to be because they're probably all going to interact. I mean, at some point, and probably pretty quickly, probably within the first chunk of Winds of Winter.
Yeah. And as we talked, Brett, in our Jason Mallister episode, if the Brotherhood Without Banners really is infiltrating Seaguard to free him and his army potentially, then you have another army on the board potentially that's going to really throw the Riverlands even into more chaos.
Actually reminds me of a little tidbit from the show in the ending of season 6 when Jaime's with Walder. He has an offhand piece of dialogue where he's like, "Yeah, the Malisters of Seaguard and I think it's Black Walder that tells him this. The Malisters of Seaguard and the Blackwoods of Raventree Hall have turned their cloaks again."
Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't go anywhere, but I thought that was an interesting little thing that they threw in there.
It was probably for a reason, though. I mean, yeah.
I think that gets into our winter theories, which will be
all right.
later.
All right. What else about Black Walder Frey? Now I don't know if you mentioned this, but he has a black beard, so I think that's essentially why people call him Black Walder. But I think primarily it's due to the fact that he just has this terrible disposition. He has a terrible personality. He's mean. He's vindictive. All these things.
Yeah. Grey Wind specifically. Grey Wind specifically goes after him when Rob arrives at the Twins.
Yeah.
Like Grey Wind goes past a couple other rando Freys, and Black Walder's like, "Look, dog."
Huh.
That's the reason why Rob puts Grey Wind.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Grey Wind specifically goes for Black Walder Frey, because Black Walder Frey just has this. He's just a terrible person.
Yeah.
As all the Freys.
Well, but yeah.
With the minor few.
With the minor few.
Like just a minor few.
4 out of 70 or whatever.
I think you mentioned 3.
I decided.
Well, no, we did. We did decide to put. I think Brett wanted us to put Fat Walda.
Oh, she's not bad.
She's not.
She's in danger too. Ramsay.
I liked her in the show.
Yeah, I did like her in the show. She just seemed like this.
She was nice.
Yeah, she was. She's a big girl.
All right, let's go on to yours.
Yeah, I think that's about it for Black Walder.
All right, so that.
Unless you have more.
Or.
Nope. Any more in Black Walder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not until Wind's Winter.
So we're going to move on to our third and final minor character. I'm very excited to talk about this guy because we've talked about kind of a grayish character in Hyle Hunt that you might not really know where he's coming from. Although I think we've come to the conclusion perhaps that, he's not really a bad guy. That's just his he's kind of rude. Yeah, he's kind of rude and he's into the whole structure of Westeros as it is. Walder Frey is a bad guy. I think we've all clearly established that. But we get the perfect hero. He is coming for the Boltons, and he's going to bathe in their blood, and it is Big Bucket Wull.
Yeah.
So I love this fucking guy. If you could team him up, with Strong Belwas, the world would burn.
I almost chose Strong Belwas as my guy, but I was like, hey, he's not controversial enough, Let me get one that I don't know. Hyle Hunt I've been wanting to talk about, but
got to start some arguments.
Yeah.
All right, so Big Bucket Wull. Now he appears. So he's actually mentioned in one chapter in I think it's John 4. So we're both wrong. John 4.
Yeah, when he's talking with Stannis and the big old council.
So Stannis has informed Jon that he's going to march on the Dreadfort, and Arnulf Karstark, who is obviously going to betray Stannis or is in league with the Boltons and trying to goad him into going for the Dreadfort. Now, Jon and Stannis don't know that as of yet, but Jon Snow says in the chapter, he's talking to Stannis, and he's basically saying, you need to win over these people. And they're looking at a map of the North. And Jon says this quote to him, and I love this quote, and I just want to read it here for our folks. The map is not the land, my father often said. Men have lived in the high valleys and mountain meadows for thousands of years, ruled by their clan chiefs, petty lords, you would call them, though they do not use such titles amongst themselves. Clan champions fight with huge two-handed greatswords, while the common men sling stones and batter one another with staffs of mountain ash. A quarrelsome folk, it must be said. When they are not fighting one another, they tend their herds, fish the Bay of Ice, and breed the hardiest mounts you'll ever ride. And one of those clan chiefs, the chief of the biggest clan in the North, is Big Bucket Wull. And he rules over a territory that is right along the west coast of the Bay of Ice. And I just think he's a really fascinating character. Now, like John's quote said, it's not necessarily a house as in terms of like House Umber, House Karstark, these kind of ancient seats, but to the Southern Knights, the Southern Lords, as well as the rulers of Winterfell, they refer to them as House Wull, Wull. But their title is also the Wull. So they might be called a lord by some people, but they refer to themselves as the Wull. So that means that they're the leader, and it's used by Big Bucket in his quotes and in his appearances when he talks about the Ned. That's how they refer to
that's cool.
Yeah. So, I love it.
Yeah, I always wondered, like, why do they call him the Ned? I mean, I love it. I love that title.
That's how they refer. So,
does that mean that they refer to? Do they refer to the other Starks that way, like the Rickard or the Rick?
Maybe, maybe.
It's definitely the Rick.
Yeah. the Rick.
They just call Theon the Hungry Wolf.
The Hungry Wolf. Yeah. All right, so Big Bucket Wull has a pretty interesting name. Now, his first name is Hugo, Hugo, Hugo Wull. But his nickname is Big Bucket. And he has that for two reasons. First, House Wull's sigil is 3 brown buckets on blue with a border of gray and white checks around it. So, and he actually there's a Scottish cartoon that may have influenced George. The character of the Scottish cartoon is called, I just want to read this for the folks out there, Or Wooly. And it features a character named Wally, who is often depicted sitting on a brown bucket. So that may be where George pulled this from. But the real reason he may be called Big Bucket is because he has the biggest belly in the northern mountains, and I just love that. I think that that's great. You can just visualize. You just visualize this person. They obviously worship the old gods, as all the northern lords do, but they're really old god worshiping because they are first men descent, like the Starks. And of the clans, House Wull is the most powerful, and they really detest the Ironborn, which I think makes for very interesting scenes to come, with Asha being prisoner of Stannis' camp and Theon coming in to Stannis' camp.
Travis, how do you spell that? Because I just tried to search that up, and it didn't just pop up. So I want to make sure you get the spelling that way.
What are you?
The name of the cartoon?
Oh yeah, so it's OOR.
Okay.
W.
Oh, there it goes.
WULLIE. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just didn't pop up right away, so I was like, I'm spelling this wrong. But okay, but continue.
Sure, no worries. So there are some other. There's one other Wull mentioned, and that is Theo Wull, who was nicknamed Buckets. And he actually more than likely fought in Robert's Rebellion because he accompanied Ned to the Tower of Joy and died there and was buried there. Bran actually remembers in one of his chapters the Wulls visiting Winterfell. I think he says that perhaps in A Clash of Kings. It might be a Storm of Swords, but I think it's a Clash. No, it would be a Clash of Kings because I think he's talking about all the people that visited.
Yeah, that sounds like Clash of Kings.
Yeah. It actually may be a Storm of Swords now that I think about it, because I think he's on the road to the Wall when he says it.
He does meet a little. That might be what.
Because he's not in. No, he's not in the Storm of Swords.
He is.
Is he?
Bran?
Bran. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking Theon. I don't know why I was thinking Theon. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Stannis has a plan to take the Dreadfort, and Jon changes his mind and insists that he wins over the North. And what does Stannis do? He marches west from Castle Black, and he goes to the Mountain Clans, and he wins them over. And I would love to see that scene play out, because I can only imagine what Stannis said to them and what they asked him to do.
Yes.
I would imagine it's...
Wait. Oh yeah, was he forced to
dance with them?
Give compliments to their daughters? Was he forced to drink beer with them, ale with them, to dance, to listen to their pipes and drums? I mean,
what if they actually loosened him up enough to where he would drink and then just did all that? Just he could never. He's like, what happens here stays here, but I did it.
Yeah.
What happens in the hill?
Finally getting in.
Don't tell anyone. And they're like, all right. And they're so blitzed. Sorry, go ahead.
If Stannis had to have a conversation with Tormund Giantsbane, it would kind of be...
Oh my God. Yes, it would be. It absolutely would be.
It could, see, it could have been like Jon, because, everyone compares Jon and Stannis. I mean, Jon did the same thing. Yeah. So it could have been very much.
Yeah. But I think the main reason that, barring I think a lot of the reason is the fact that Stannis came, and we talk a lot about Stannis on this podcast, but if it was Robb, if it was Renly, if it was whoever, if someone comes to you and says, one, I need your help, but two, I'm going to drive the Krakens out of here, and then we're going to turn our sights on the Boltons who killed your king. A person like Big Bucket Wull was going to say, sign me up. Like, he's waiting to do that. He's an older guy. We'll talk in just a minute about some of his quotes. He doesn't expect to last this winter. And of course, we all know that story of how the Northerners operate in the winter. Their men march out to hunt and die so they don't have to take food from their wives and their children and the other people of their clan or their house. But Big Bucket Wull is also looking for vengeance. He wants to pay back the Boltons and the Freys and everyone for what they did. So this is a deal he can't not take from Stannis. I mean, Stannis is offering him the chance to march. And you can imagine the Mountain Clan sitting there drinking for several months thinking, let's go, let's march south, let's kill these people. But they just realized we can't stop them. And then here comes someone with 5,000 troops and says, let's do it. Let's march. Let's kill these people. They're going to take it.
Yeah.
So, I think that that's ultimately why they choose to follow Stannis. I don't think that they probably don't necessarily care for Stannis, but he's giving them the option. He's giving them the desire.
Well, and he comes down and says, I talked to Jon Snow. He gave me this advice.
I think that's again, the Ned's son. I just left the Ned's son. And he told me to come here. He told me that I could trust you. He told me that you would help me. So, I think that plays a lot. So I want to talk a little bit about the Northern clans, because I think that this explains a lot of Big Bucket Wull's personality and appearance. And I want to read this. This is going to be just a little long, but I absolutely love the chapter, The King's Prize. It's a great chapter, and it comes off of so The King's Prize is an Asha chapter, but it comes off of The Wayward Bride. And if everyone will remember, The Wayward Bride is when the northern houses, I think Glover and Mormont and Stannis' army and the mountain clans attack Deepwood Mott, and they defeat Asha and the Ironborn host there and free the castle. But one of the things that is used, and it's a nod to what happens in Macbeth, is the woods come alive. So these northern clansmen are dressed as trees. And so they've inched up to the castle, covering themselves in wood and pine needles. And, what we're going to read here, it sounds like they even camouflage themselves. And so they concealed their approach to Deepwood Mott, and they're ultimately able to take the castle. But this is the next chapter, The King's Prize, the next Asha chapter in A Dance with Dragons. And I just want to read this. This is just a little long, but I think it really shows the true mettle of the northern clans. And I really just love this opening. This is such a good opening. The king's hosts departed Deepwood Mott by the light of a golden dawn, uncoiling from behind the long palisades like a long steel serpent emerging from its nest. The southern knights rode out in plate and mail, dented and scarred by the battles they had fought, but still bright enough to glitter when they caught the rising sun. Faded and stained, torn and mended, their banners and surcoats made a riot of colors amidst the winter wood, azure and orange, red and green, purple and blue and gold, glimmering amongst bare brown trunks, gray-green pines, and sentinels drifts of dirty snow. Each knight had his squires, servants, and men-at-arms. Behind them came armorers, cooks, grooms, ranks of spearmen, axemen, archers, grizzled veterans of 100 battles, and green boys off to fight their first. Before them marched the clansmen from the hills, chiefs and champions astride shaggy garrons, their hirsute fighters trotting beside them, clad in furs and boiled leather and old mail. Some painted their faces brown and green and tied bundles of brush about them to hide amongst the trees. I fucking love that imagery.
Yeah.
So they've camouflaged themselves, like we said. But it's also interesting that, George uses this term clans. So if we think about the Vale clans, you kind of think, that's what we're talking about here. And it is to an extent, although the clans there are more wildlings. These are more, as the quote said from Jon Snow, these are small minor houses.
Because they were accepted,
Right. But Garin, which is a type of horse, which is a small, sturdy workhorse that originated in Ireland and Scotland. That's another way of George describing that the roots of these people go back to the foothills and hills and mountains of Scotland and Ireland. And I just love that imagery, and that they're, this motif follows through even in the horses that they use. And those horses become very important because as Stannis's host makes its way south, they encounter snow and cold and ice and wind. And it's, all the southern knights are falling behind because their horses aren't made for this climate. They're not made for this climate. They've never seen snow like this. But the mountain clans, they have special shoes on their feet. They have special shoes on their horses. And they're just getting along on these little garrons, just moving along. And their beards are crusted with snow. It's just such great imagery. I can just see these little guys. I mean, it really evokes like the dwarves of Lord of the Rings, in a way. But I just love these mountain clans. I think Big Bucket Wull is definitely elevating as one of my favorite minor characters. What were you saying, Micah?
No, I was just agreeing. I was like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So I want to read a couple other quotes because I think again this sets the mood of what these people were like and what Big Bucket Wull is like. And this talks a little bit about the weather they're encountering, but also the reason that the northern clans can deal with it so well. And then we've got some really great quotes from Big Bucket Wull in here. So this comes from a little later on in the King's Prize. On the third day of snow, the king's host began to come apart. Whilst the southern knights and lordlings struggled, the men of the northern hills fared better. Their garrons were sure-footed beasts that ate less than palfreys and much less than the big destriers, and the men who rode them were at home in the snow. Many of the wolves donned curious footwear. Bear paws, they called them, queer elongated things made with bent wood and leather strips. Lashed onto the bottoms of their boots, the things somehow allowed them to walk on top of the snow without breaking through the crust and sinking down to their thighs. Some had bear paws for their horses too, and the shaggy little garrons wore them as easily as other mounts wore iron horseshoes. But the palfreys and destriers wanted no part of them. When a few of the king's knights strapped them onto their feet nonetheless, the big southern horses balked and refused to move, or tried to shake the things off their feet. One destrier broke an ankle trying to walk in them. The Northmen on their bear paws soon began to outdistance the rest of the host. They overtook the knights in the main column, then Sir Godfrey Faring and his vanguard. And meanwhile, the wains and wagons of the baggage train were falling farther and farther behind, so much so that the men of the rear guard were constantly chivying them to keep up a faster pace. All right, again, just later on in the chapter, we get another look at some of the northern clans. And again, they're still encountering snow. The Northmen fared much better with their garrons and their bear paws. Black Donald Flint and his half-brother Artos only lost one man between them. The Littles, the Walls, and the Norries lost none at all. One of Morgan Little's mules had gone astray, but he seemed to think the Flints had stolen him. So, Stannis' army is, sort of falling apart. People are freezing to death. They're starving to death. They're fleeing. They're just, it's really bad circumstances. And here are the northern clans kind of accusing each other of, hey, he stole my mule. I fucking love it. It's just so crazy. They're like, we'll get into it here in a minute. They're drinking and they're pounding their cups and they don't give a shit. Like they've dealt with this lifestyle. This is nothing to them.
It's like when you compare. It's like when you have that one meme on Facebook where it's like weather in California, they got a bit of ice on the road. Better close down the school. Weather in Wisconsin, and it's like 6 foot deep of snow, and they're like, we might be a little bit late today.
Yeah,
it's the same here in Georgia too.
Yeah, it's like we get quite a bit of snow here in West Virginia, but when I lived and worked in DC, you've got so many people from all parts of the country that live and work there. I saw people pull over and abandon their car on the sidewalk. I was like, this is like an inch of snow. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's why
it's crazy.
That happens here in Georgia. That's like, well, what it is though is like no one ices or no one, there's not funding for salting.
They don't de-ice the roads and stuff.
Yeah.
No.
But still, the concept remains. Like,
yeah.
It is. People do freak out like when it's like it's not gonna last a week, guys. Like,
yeah.
No,
it's very rare. Like,
yeah, the Southerners are very underprepared for the coming winter.
Oh, they absolutely are. Okay, so now this next section is a little longer, but I want to read it all because it gets to the mental state and to the status of Stannis' army as they're marching south toward Winterfell, and then also we get some amazing quotes by Big Bucket Wull, and so here we go. Again, we're still in the King's Prize. Finally, after a nightmarish day when the column advanced a bare mile and lost a dozen horses and 4 men, Lord Peasbury turned against the Northmen. This march was madness, more dying every day. And for what? Some girl? Ned's girl, said Morgan Little. He was the second of 3 sons, so the other wolves called him Middle Little. I'm sorry.
After his face, right?
Yeah, though not often in his hearing.
I read that quote the other day.
Yeah, it's awesome. It was Morgan who had almost slain Asha in the fight by Deepwood Mott. He came. This is another part. He had come to her later on the march to beg her pardon for calling her cunt in the battle lust, not for trying to split her head open with an axe. Ned's girl, echoed Big Bucket Wull. And we should have had her in the castle both if you prancing southern jackanapes didn't piss your satin breeches at a little snow. A little snow? Peasbury's soft girlish mouth twisted in fury. Your ill counsel forced this march upon us, Wull. I am starting to suspect you have been Bolton's creature all along. Is that the way of it? Did he send you to us to whisper poison in the king's ear? Big Bucket laughed in his face. Lord Peapod, if you were a man, I would kill you for that. But my sword is made of too fine a steel to besmirch it with craven's blood. He took a drink of ale and wiped his mouth. Aye, men are dying. More will die before we see Winterfell. What of it? This is war. Men die in war. That is as it should be, as it had always been. Sir Corlys Penny gave the clan chief an incredulous look. Do you want to die, Wull? That seemed to amuse the Northman. I want to live forever in a land where summer lasts 1,000 years. I want a castle in the clouds where I can look down over the world. I want to be 6 and 20 again. When I was 6 and 20, I could fight all day and fuck all night. What men want does not matter. Winter is almost upon us, boy, and winter is death. I would sooner my men die fighting for the Ned's little girl than alone and hungry in the snow, weeping tears that freeze upon their cheeks. No one sings songs of men who die like that. As for me, I am old. This will be my last winter. Let me bathe in Bolton blood before I die. I want to feel it spatter across my face when my axe bites deep into a Bolton skull. I want to lick it off my lips and die with the taste of it on my tongue. Aye, shouted Morgan Little. Blood and battle. Then all the hillmen were shouting, banging their cups and drinking horns on the table, filling the king's tent with clangor. I love that. I absolutely love that. It's amazing.
I doubt Peasebury or Corliss Penny ever spoke up again.
No, I probably did not.
Those guys got to be good for morale. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
So Will Smith is a Klansman.
Stannis is just sitting there grinding his teeth, but he's not going to say anything. I mean, what does he care? I'll let him sing and drink, and they're going to kill Boltons for me. So
as long as they fulfill their duties, Stannis.
That's right.
Oh, for some reason, the small folk love Stannis. I mean, so
yeah, and I think the troops do too. And Asha says that throughout the chapters. But I just love that. What's he say here? Lord Peapod.
Peapod.
That makes me also think of and Micah was kind enough to help me find this this quote early in the week. I couldn't find it. They're in the chapter The Sacrifice, they're talking about that they need to make a sacrifice to R'hllor. And they're at the Crofters Village. So at the end of the King's Prize, they come upon the Crofters Village with its long hall and its tower and its fishing huts and its strip of land between two lakes. And so they make camp there. Well, on one of the lakes is a weirwood grove or a weirwood tree. I don't remember if it's a grove or just a tree.
I can't remember either, but yeah.
And there's a lot of theories of how that could come into a play, which I think we'll talk about here in a little bit. But Big Bucket Wull says this: Red R'hllor means nothing here. You will only make the old gods angry. They are watching from their island. So Lord Peapod, Red R'hllor, it's just amazing. This man is just amazing. All right, so now that I have talked so much about Big Bucket Wull, what's your guys' thoughts on him?
Well, in true Travis fashion, I mean, you covered everything I wanted to touch on. So
sorry.
No, that's good. No, it's good. You just did better research than I did. So, no, I mean, that's one of my favorite quotes of any of the books is his little speech there. And it just, I don't know. I love that character. I hope he makes it through. I don't know. I just want all my favorites to make it through. I mean,
don't we all?
He expects to die. And I feel like, irony would have it. It would be his last winter, but he gets to enjoy the summertime after this.
I like
Maybe
that.
He'll die seeing the dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be. Okay, what's your all's thoughts on the Walls, Big Bucket Wull?
He's a great character. He really reminds me of if Tormund Giantsbane was south of the Wall.
Yeah.
He'd be a lot like him, and they would probably be like best friends.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Definitely if Big Bucket Wull survives and they ended up getting back together, all joining up for the long night, that would be a cool. It'd be like what is it? The episode 2 of season 8, but even better. That would be.
That'd
be way better. Yeah, but
like instead of a battle lasting 6 chapters, it's just the same gigantic party lasting through 6 different, just the last goodbyes before you get the long night. But
I think that's a possibility because you mentioned how they hate the Ironborn and such, and how that's going to be really interesting going forward with Asha and Theon. But there's another Ironborn that's been hiding out, who I now think could have been my minor character choice, but Dagmar Cleftjaw could be having interesting interactions with Big Bucket Wull in the future if he makes his reappearance in the future.
Because he's holding Torrhen Square, right?
Yeah, he's holding Torrhen Square, and he could provide some much-needed help in the Battle of Winterfell, especially since his little nephew.
I thought they ran him out. Didn't they run him out?
No, he's
still hanging out there.
Because Roose doesn't want to have to deal with him, so he's just like, well, he'll stay there, so he can stay over there. I'll just deal with Stannis because he's an actual threat.
Oh, I didn't know he was. I didn't realize he was.
I was surprised by that too but Mike is right, because in this chapter they bring Asha before Stannis, and she says, strike my chains, let me ride. She says that to Justin Massey, but I think she implies it to Stannis, and she says, there are Ironborn at Torrhen Square. I will bring them to your calls. They will fight for you. And of course, Stannis, won't have anything of it. But I was like, oh wow, the Ironborn are still at Torrhen Square.
It's very interesting. Well, now we're getting off topic of your thing, but it's very interesting because that's kind of what Theon did. Like, hey, Rob, let me go get the Ironborn to fight for you. And Stannis is like, hell no. Like, I do not trust you. But, I mean, she's not Theon. But I don't have much more to add on Bucket Wull. I think you taught me more about him than...
I think I've grown to like Big Bucket Wull even more throughout you just talking about him.
Oh, he's so good. I mean, I instantly liked him when I first read that, and I think, how can you not like someone who doesn't give a shit and just says things like that? But then, it's sort of it's almost like the Mummer's Farce speech by Wyman Manderley.
Yeah.
It's in the same vein of that, my last winter, I'm going to fight. I'm going to die, hopefully. But first, I'm going to feel the spray of blood on my face, and I'm going to bury my axe deep into someone's head, and I'm going to free the North. I'm going to give it back to the Starks. And I think that's what I, on my very first read of A Dance with Dragons, I was like, oh, yes, do it. It's the same way I did with Wyman Manor. I was like, yes, kill all these people.
Yeah, do it.
Yes,
murder.
Yeah, please murder these people.
Right. Get rid of them. We don't want them anymore. We got Euron coming.
Right.
Oh, God. Yep.
Okay, so that concludes our analysis of these 3 characters. So I want to talk a little bit about speculation now. And we'll jump back to Sir Hyle Hunt. And I think, Micah, since you have a theory, we're just going to let you go first.
Yes, I'm super interested in that.
Now, this can be, we can talk about what they're going to do in Winds and Dream, if we think they're going to survive to that, or however you want to do it. But just, go ahead and tell us what you think is going to happen to Sir Hyle Hunt.
I think that, so currently, for those watching who may need a reminder, Jaime Lannister in his chapter in Dance of Dragons is met by Brienne of Tarth, who tells them that she's found the Hound and they need to go get him, otherwise he'll kill Sansa. And this seems like it's a ruse for her to bring Jaime to Stoneheart, which is what Stoneheart wanted Brienne to do when Brienne said a word, which was sword. And so from that, it looks like they're going to have a meeting. It'll be a Jaime Stoneheart meeting, and it'll be pretty awesome. But also, Hyle Hunt and Podrick Payne are most likely not still dead, and very likely still captive. What I think is going to happen is there's going to be a single combat where Jaime's going to offer himself up as his own champion, and then Stoneheart will probably call for champion herself. I'm thinking either Lemon Cloak or even Brienne. But if she chooses Brienne, Hyle Hunt may try to prove his love and his loyalty to her by going, no, I'll fight in her stead. Don't let her fight Jaime. You might even recognize that Brienne actually loves Jaime, and he might be like, damn, I've got no chance, so I've got to do this for her. In some weird romanticization of it.
Wow.
And my theory is that I think Hyle is going to end up being killed by Jaime in the single combat, which will free Brienne and Jaime and Podrick from.
I really like that. I mean,
I do too.
It's so sad too because there's so many shades of Hyle Hunt or of Jaime and Hyle Hunt too,
right?
And they're so similar, and they're both kind of, oh man, yeah.
But
then in one vein, Jaime's trying to save his skin while Hyle Hunt is trying to prove.
It also feeds into the arc of knighthood that all three characters have: Jaime, Brienne, and Hyle Hunt. And Brienne even thinks of Hyle Hunt as no true knight. And she may think of it, or Jaime may think of it, in that Hyle sacrificing himself may be a idea of true knighthood, essentially, and could feed into all that.
And it perfectly, it fits in what we discussed about the similarities between Jaime and Sir Hyle.
Right.
I think, and you said this, Micah, when we were talking. I think you said this, that Brienne is kind of dismissive of Sir Hyle. Like, she doesn't really consider him a true knight.
Yeah.
This could potentially make her reconsider, but it could also maybe I think this is a big maybe. If Jaime wins, it could also make her kind of think, boy, I wish Jaime didn't kill him. Like, he wasn't deserving of dying.
It's kind of like Evil Dick again.
Yes.
Kind of like a repetition of that, where she's like, shoot, this could have gone differently.
Yeah.
Which is, it's weird too, because we might be giving Hyle Hunt a little too much credit here.
Right. That's one drawback with that theory.
Right. Because he could be jealous. Yeah, he could be jealous of like Jaime and want to just kill him and thinks it gets overconfident.
I could totally see that happening.
I don't see how Jaime's going to beat Hyle Hunt. Because Hyle Hunt is not afraid of like Brienne, studies Brienne, knows how she fights, and is very keen on fighting stuff. So I don't think he's going to. It would almost be out of character for him to be overconfident in a sword fight. Even though he acts like that, he could be. It would just, I don't know. But then he could see the one hand and. Yeah.
One hand, but Hyle's also been like beaten up badly. He probably doesn't have as much energy.
Yeah.
As would be held in captivity.
Oh yeah. True. I didn't think of that. But then that's getting into the whole Dunk and Egg third book story where you get Glendon Ball getting tortured and then he ends up winning the fight. Even though they kind of rigged the fight in their favor. But he still wins the joust. Have you watched?
I haven't.
I didn't mean to spoil you. Okay, just forget that name.
No spoilers. Came out when?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Okay, Micah, earplugs. No, anyways, so you know how in Dunk and Egg, the third one, where they rigged the fight.
Yeah.
Dunk sort of. Yeah. Dunk and Brienne have a lot of parallels. Glendon Ball was beaten up, tortured. Mm-hmm. So was Hyle Hunt. They're both pricks on the outside. They're both hard to be around. Maybe a similarity. I don't know.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah.
And they're both near Pennytree Hall, which is symbolic of Dunk's master and all that stuff.
Right. Micah, you haven't read that?
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Well, don't just forget it and read it.
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't
really
give
good.
anything. It doesn't. I mean, it gives away that part, but it doesn't give anything away.
That's not the main part of the story.
Yeah. It's a great. That is a great twist, but it leads up to an even better twist.
Well, I got spoiled with Red Wedding before I even read the books. So yeah, it happens.
Well, we did say at the beginning of I do that little warning. So, but
spoiler warning.
Yeah,
it's fair game.
But so my bad though. I wouldn't have spoiled you if I didn't know. But
fine. It's all good. But yeah, that's what my one drawback is Hyle's attitude towards it. I could see him trying to do it out of spite. My main thing is I don't see him living through the Stoneheart encounter.
He may not.
Yeah, that remains one of the storylines that I just can't figure out where it's going to go. Not that I can necessarily figure out where the other ones are going to go. But one, we didn't get it in the show.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no context there from the visual medium to, give us an idea. And there are so many other great theories on what's going to happen in the Battle of Ice, what's going to happen in the Battle of Fire, what's going to happen at Storm's End, what's going to happen at Old Town, etc. And there were a lot of great theories out there about what's going to happen with the Lannister army marching west and the prologue of Winds and Stoneheart and all this. But it's almost like those theories, and I'm not attacking the people who write those theories, but there's no then conclusion of, okay, do they retake River Run? Do they become part of the King's Landing plot? Do they march north? There's just nothing there that really I've ever seen that really makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
It's hard to look at like the whole picture to see like, because you almost have to like step out and then like kind of, and I don't do that when I make my crazy theories or whatever off the bat, but you kind of have to like step back, check like, okay, so if this happens, what's happening to like, the rest and like what's going to go on with everyone else.
George does and deals with all these characters.
Yeah, exactly. You have to try to think like him, and that's going to be hard.
Yeah,
but
that's hard.
Yeah. But I think it is interesting the way the third Dunk and Egg book wraps up, and I think it's totally worth you checking out though, all three of them.
Oh, I know they're on my watch read list somewhere. Especially
with your Hyle Hunt theory, and now that I'm kind of seeing that, it might make more sense if you read it. I don't know. I mean, that's just something I just thought of off the top of my head, but yeah. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking in too, because I like your theory a lot. Like,
yeah, it's really good theory. You need to work that up and post it.
I got loads of theories that I need to work up and go, hey guys, check in this out.
Yeah,
Marwyn might die or something. I don't know. And that's my hot take. That's my winter hot, or not winter hot take. Dream of Spring hot take is that
Marwyn's gonna die
dies by Tyrion. But we don't need to go into that.
We might have to.
Do you guys have any?
I have questions.
I don't. I do not have. Again, this is the one storyline that I can't wrap my head around what I think is going to happen, and so your theory is now my headcanon of what I think is going to happen, at least to Hyle Hunt and at least to Jaime and Brienne for at least for a while in The Winds of Winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm kind of sad that he would die in that headcanon, but I don't see Jaime dying at all in that.
But not in that situation, huh?
But
there. And Brienne, most likely not.
Well, and Jaime is, his chapters, and if he's for Chris, he's constantly sparring with Sir Ilyn, so he's training. So I think the culmination is that he will come back to, he's going to have to fight at some. I mean, I think everyone thinks he's going to fight eventually, but I could see a duel being the next thing on his path.
It's what they like. I mean, I know there's that theory where the wolves are going to attack everyone and everyone's going to die or something.
Yeah.
And I think the wolves are definitely going to attack. I don't think everyone's going to die. I think but I do think that I feel like a trial by combat is going to be the only way Jaime gets out of the situation he's in.
Yeah, I think so.
And it makes sense because he has Tyrion on his mind right now. He's trying to think like Tyrion. He's trying to be smarter. He's trying to, be a better person at the same time. But he's not. Yeah. So I just feel like.
Yeah, I think like a trial by combat versus like Lemon Cloak could happen, but I like Hyle Hunt's
I do too. I like that more.
Tragic and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And as a working author, I enjoy writing those kinds of moments.
Or it could be it could be just as heartbreaking as, maybe Jaime wants to do it. Oh, no, that wouldn't make any sense. I was going to say Hyle Hunt steps in for Jaime.
No.
Because Brienne, I don't know, but that'd be a long shot too. I don't know.
He wants to be the only guy with Brienne, but yeah, I guess we'll move on to the next guy then. If you guys don't got anything else.
Yeah, so let's do Walder Frey next, and I'm gonna start.
All right.
Okay.
What you got?
Again, this is a hard one. I don't think Walder Frey is going to die immediately. I actually think that he could survive for at least a little bit. I could see a scenario potentially where Walder Frey dies, either is killed by Lady Stoneheart in a Red Wedding 2.0, or the Mallisters march down and the Lannister army has been wiped out and the Brotherhood marches on River Run or the Twins, sorry, and they free the Tallies, etc., and they all kind of go on them, and then Blackwalder's kind of out there somewhere. I could easily see the potential for a lot of Freys just biting it pretty quickly, but I don't think that that's going to happen just instantaneous, because Lady Stoneheart's story is going to get so much darker than it already is. But something tragic is going to happen to her or to her plans at some point. I think she's going to win again for a while, and I don't want to say win as in we should be rooting for her victory, but if you think about it in the terms of the Winds of Winter, Dany's going to come back and win in her initial plot arc. Now, what does winning mean? We'll wait and see. That probably means burning cities. Aegon or Fagon is probably going to beat the Tyrells at Storm's End. Stannis is probably going to win at the Battle of Ice. I have no idea what's going to happen at Old Town, but probably Euron is going to win. So you're going to have all of these victories.
Except for,
you're going to have a lot of these victories for these characters initially, and
that you're rooting for.
Yeah, and look, I would be lying if I said I'm not rooting for Lady Stoneheart to kill a bunch of Freys. But there's going to be something tragic that George does to the story, and he's already laying those seeds with Brienne and everything. But I can't see Walder Frey just instantly biting it. I think that he'll be an antagonist for a while, potentially, to whatever happens in the Riverlands plot.
It's gonna go dark. Like I don't know if this will go this way, but it's gonna be something dark, like Lady Stoneheart captures some of his children, and then starts like going batshit crazy with that. It's gonna be something super dark like that, like where it's like, this is not justice anymore. This is we're just doing what they did to us. This is not.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the route she's going. I think that's the route Arya is struggling with understanding. And then there's a lot of that, and then you get probably the Euron victory where he's just there. He's the one. He's the one ramping up, where the allies are now having to decide where they lie morally. Pretty much, I think. So I don't really have an idea of where he's going to end up.
I kind of do, because Black Walder is in the TV show Game of Thrones as an incredibly more minor in that than he is in this.
Yeah,
and he's one of the Freys baked into the pie and given to Walder. I don't think that's exactly going to happen to him, but I do think there could be some implications of Freys eating each other. And I think Black Walder Frey is going to be one of the last Freys alive in the story, one of the last main ones. If you consider main Freys being Lord Walder, Black Walder, Edwin, Lothar, those guys.
That'd be pretty ironic for him, too.
Yeah.
And very invoking of Euron, too, because Euron wants to be the last one alive.
Instead of him being Lord of the Crossing, instead picture he's trapped in his castle, snowed in, barely any food left, only his own family left, and the others are outside of the door.
Mm-hmm.
I think something like that could happen, to where he ends up incredibly stubborn. He doesn't want to help anybody. He just wants to be Lord of the Crossing. Ends up biting him in the back. If the others show up and they just trap him in there and starve him out, and no one can come to save him.
I mean,
I love Freys eating each other. That's so good. Because it's a metaphor for what they're going to do to each other. They're going
to each other.
Yeah, they're going to consume their house by their actions.
Well,
and it makes
that's what that. I mean, I may be reading too much into this, but you know how, like, in dance, you've got Quentin and you've got John, and Quentin's a failed character arc, but he has a lot of similarities with John, but they kind of just Quentin falls short of John. It would be crazy. It would be awesome if George was doing that with villains. So you get Black Walder, and then you get Euron Greyjoy.
Right.
Like Euron's killing his family members, and instead of dying from the others and being alone, he becomes a part of something because he wants to ascend to some sort of godhood or something. But then you get, Black Walder getting frozen in to his castle and the others are surrounding him. I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
It's great story writing.
That's my thing. I've spent like entire days sometimes just thinking, what will happen to this guy in Winds or Dream? Or or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just come up with something crazy. Like, what matters to them? How would they get broken?
Well, poor Quentin has the great comment on theories that, some theories seem like they're right, but there's just something off that doesn't make sense to the characters in the story. It has to feel right. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you're right, Micah, about your theory, but it certainly feels right that the Freys would somehow consume themselves. So I love it. I think that it absolutely feels right to something George would do to them.
Yeah, it might not even be Black Walder. It could just be Lord Walder who ends up stuck in
it could be, and it could be, again, he created this mess by what he did at the Red Wedding, but also having too many children and too many grandchildren that you eventually kill yourself because one, and he treats them all like shit as well. Yeah. So,
but I do like that. Yeah, I do like that idea though.
All right, so Micah, you get to go first with Big Bucket Wull.
All right. Well, I definitely think that he's gonna live through the Battle of Ice, and I think he's gonna be first with the Gates in Winterfell, maybe alongside Asha, or that could be Morgan Little. He could be alongside Asha and be like, "Hey, you're actually pretty cool." But with Big Bucket Wull, I kind of feel like he'll be one of those minor characters who will get a lot of background detail. I don't really see him living through the winter. I think he'll be one of the ones to go out swinging against the others. Maybe he'll lead a scouting regiment or something, find out where they are, and I'm just not entirely sure with Big Bucket Wull because I haven't put as much thought into him as I have with Hyle Hunt or Archmaester Marwyn.
That's interesting. I think I don't think he's going to survive till A Dream of Spring. Maybe. But, well, I like what you said about him marching out potentially to be, in the vanguard facing the others. And maybe maybe if the first battle with the others south of the wall, we'll say, that the first real battle, is Stannis marching from Winterfell, maybe Big Bucket Wull says, I'm going to march with him. I'm going to, you all flee south, or how, whatever happens up there with Jon and the rest of them. But perhaps that's where he perishes. I do think that he dies in one of those conflicts. I'm like you. I don't see him dying taking Winterfell. I don't see him dying in the Battle of Ice. If he does, he'll be very happy. He'll die happy with an axe in someone's head. But
George will probably have him do something metal, like throwing his axe at Hosbeam Frey or something.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Oh, that'd be so sweet.
Gets shot with his arrow, and he's like, "Well, you got nothing left."
Yeah. And they're going to be very key. The Mountain Clan are going to be very key in the Battle of Ice itself, because if they are luring the Frey cavalry over the ice to fall through, not everyone's going to instantly die. There's going to be a lot of people, climbing out of the water and trying to get up on the snow. And you got those bear paws. You just walk over and club people in the head. And God. I would. What? HBO, why didn't you do that? Like, that would be so visually.
Have like one of them like offer their hand out. Hey, do you need a hand?
Yeah.
Like, the guy's like, well, too bad.
Straight axe to the skull. God, I love it. Oh shit.
On HBO.
Yeah. This was like the perfect story for you, HBO.
Hey, they can
version in 20 years. We'll get it.
Yes. They could. I mean, they could. You know what? Just take this. That's all they have to do to make a great story, and like whatever it's called, Blood Moon or whatever. Just take all the stories that they left out of Game of Thrones and just put them into. Just do those stories of just
Quentin.
Yeah, just do all those characters. Yeah, Quentin. Yeah, just do Quentin, and then I mean, he's just like Jon Snow a little bit, Yeah. So.
Yeah, but Jon Snow isn't Jon Snow in the show.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So, but
yeah, there's not much on Big Bucket. Did you have anything, Brett?
No, not really. I mean, I really don't know. If he does die at the Battle of Winterfell, he's going. I think he's just. It would be really sad if he just kind of didn't have like a cool heroic ending. Could happen, but no, I feel like he'll survive that one and live to fight the others.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah,
but,
I can see that.
It seems like George is really setting up who his end game characters will be, and like Big Bucket Wull, Asha, maybe Theon. Probably, in my opinion, most likely.
It's just
Stannis.
It's just like it would just be such a shame to introduce a lot of these like really great characters just to kill them all off. And George,
can't pull a show here.
And as much as people say George is like that, he's not really like that. Like
he's not really. No, he's only killed a few point of view characters.
Most of the characters he's killed off, he's had plans since the beginning. So
right,
depending.
And I think
right,
and I think the northern. The northern political climate is going to be really important in the Winds of Winter. I mean, I think you're going to obviously have competing claims emerging with Robb's will and Jon Snow's resurrection and Sansa coming north, etc., and Davos bringing Rickon back, and then Stannis saying, "All right, I'm actually your king." So, but. And so I think that a lot of these minor characters in the North may be potentially created to go into certain groups. So like would Big Bucket Wull support Jon? Would the Manderleys support Rickon? Would the Dustins support Sansa? I don't know, but just so you kind of get the context for who's standing behind them because you know these characters.
Yeah,
could be.
Yeah.
See, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, right now they're united because everyone's desperate and they're trying to. But you get a sense like Manderley is not really for Stannis, but if it's going to benefit him,
right?
Yeah,
right. Yep. It's all about and the walls as well. I mean, they're again, this is okay. This is a way that we can go kill people. All right, we'll take it. So I
mean, this is why Jon would be important for his like lineage to be known, to unite. Maybe after this is all done, the North is bickering. Someone figures out his identity. He's able to whatever, and then and maybe maybe it doesn't happen exactly that way. Maybe they just name him King of the North first, and then they find it. I don't know.
Yeah.
The show kind of muddied that up for me because I really don't think a lot. I think a lot of what happens in the show is going to happen, but in a very different way. And
I don't know.
And I honestly don't see how George is going to wrap it up in 2 more books either. So
that's like the Winds of Winter will be the test. I mean, if he kills off a number of POVs and he has, and again, I think that's why it's taking so long. Like he's trying to get people where he needs them to be in order to get done with A Dream of Spring.
Yeah.
I've experimented with like a style. If the show were to like try to like adapt itself more according with the books, how would these seasons go out? You'd have Dance and Feast being 5 and 6, some of Feast happening in 4. But Winds of Winter would be, but I would, struggling with how Winds of Winter would be laid out and then Dream of Spring, I would have to like have Battle of Ice and Fire be ending of season 6. And then season 7 and 8 be Winds of Winter. And then 9 and 10 would have to be Dream of Spring, but that's still muddled up. So there still has to be a little bit more. It really is a lot that he has to do yet.
Well, and you, I mean, you got to think too, like, think about season 1. Like, half those characters aren't even, that are in the books are not there. Like, they had to cut out a lot of just minor characters.
Right.
But most of those characters, they play a role. So they kind of have to combine it, and that's where you get. So.
But
All right. So we want to conclude tonight by turning the mic over to you, Micah, and letting you tell your Song of Ice and Fire story. Tell us how you got into the books, into the TV show, how you decided to hop on Twitter and start interacting with people, and give us some insights onto the fandom as well.
All right. Well, I had a bit of an interesting childhood. My family was really religious in parts. I didn't get to read as much as I would have liked to. In reflection, I would have much rather had started reading, say, Wheel of Time much earlier and all that. So I've read some things, but I didn't read a lot. But once we moved out of Indiana and got over to where I'm living now, not to brag on any people living in Indiana, people, but certain things in Indiana. I managed to not watch Game of Thrones at all until season 7 was about to air. And then my parents were like, you need to watch Game of Thrones. You love fantasy. Why haven't you seen this yet? I was like, okay, I'll watch it. Jeez. And I've been playing in a few months. And then I watched season 7 and I was like, So I got into YouTube videos, people talking about it. I ended up joining a Facebook group about it. So I met Travis first. We've had interactions in that Facebook book club thing. And in 2018, I finally read the books. I bought the collection and then I read through them really fast and I was like, holy crap, these are amazing. And of course, I looked at my own book that I'm writing at the time, which also had a point of view structure kind of similar to George, and I was like, wow, my book sucks. It's horrible. Why is this so bad? But which the books, the George R. Martin's books gave me a lot of inspiration, and I could really see how you can actually write that isn't. I mean, George is a masterpiece, but my books were awful that I was writing. They were really bad.
You were writing? Did you say you were writing?
Yeah, I'm writing a book.
Oh.
I told Travis about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not terrible.
Just wait till that rough draft comes out on the day I die. I'm going to put that in my will. That's going to be my will, is this draft that I've held on to for so many years is going out into the public.
That's why you have editors. You show them to people and have them.
Oh yeah, I've seen so many things. So I read the books, and then I looked back at the show, and I was like, wow, that was my reaction. I ended up getting further into the fandom with the Facebook group, and then I ended up getting Twitter because I was like, yeah, maybe Twitter will be a bit better than Facebook. And then I heard that I've heard good things about Port Quentin and Brendan Beefish first. So I looked them up. It's all their stuff. Started listening to their podcast. And then I got embedded into the podcast first, where all you guys are at. Night's Cast, History of Westeros, and Radio Westeros, which was one of the first ones I watched. All those are great. And a lot of the podcasts, Planet Toast podcast. I ended up finding out Travis is on Twitter too. Oh, look at that. Travis is on Twitter. And I just suddenly got intermingled with all you guys. And I was like, oh, hey, it's my fam. Talking about the things that I like talking about. This is awesome. And you guys are super friendly too, which helped.
That's always helpful.
No, I mean,
that's basically how I came into the fandom, and I just started interacting with everyone.
I mean, your internet journey is pretty much the same as mine. I mean, I was looking at YouTube theories, found a few people I liked, and then
we're going through the roles, liking Preston Jacobs for a little while, and being going through ideas, Ice and Fire, and going through all those YouTube guys, finding Radio Westeros.
Dude, I was really into The Last Harpy for a little bit, but which he's cool. He's cool. He does it. He likes doing it, but
I said I think I've seen one video from the last Harpy, and that was it.
He just scrolls through. I think he just scrolls through Reddit and finds tinfoil theories and like puts them on YouTube. Yeah, and then he'll talk, like he'll put them in. He'll just read them and talk about them and stuff. But
yeah,
he's what, like, he got me into it. But then I think I was like bouncing. I've always had a SoundCloud, so I found History of Westeros through SoundCloud, and then kind of was hearing.
Yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Yeah,
Travis randomly texted me one day and was like, "Hey, want to record?" Like
everything you did led you to here, to where you are now.
Brain Stark. Now run towards this 8,000-year-old ice demon with a spear and try to stop him for me, please.
You're a good man. Well, I hope so.
I'm gonna work some ravens. All right.
At that point, I'd be like, does it matter if I'm a good man? You're making me run toward this guy.
Couldn't I stand here for 20 seconds?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they're moving.
I feel like Bran could have just been like fletching arrows for him the whole time. You know, just a few extra werewood arrows. You know,
if you watch Mason Monthly. If you watch Mason Monthly, they had this great idea of putting dragon glass on the beaks of ravens.
Oh yeah.
Like have them kamikaze down into the army of the dead.
That sounds like a Michael idea because he's ridiculous like that.
It was either him or Eliana.
Yeah, either of them. Yeah.
Could be Eliana.
I think they both kind of said something and then it just combined.
That's usually what happens. They one says one crazy part and the other one says the other one, and they're like, "Oh, well, let's do this." Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's you've been in the fandom now just for a couple years then.
Just for a couple of years. I've only really been interacting for like past like few months or so.
Yeah.
Twitter anyway.
I'd say it's like what 7 or 8 months. We've all been interacting on Twitter. Yeah, I think so because I kind of remember maybe sometime last fall. Maybe that was on Facebook, and then all of a sudden you popped up on Twitter and you were like, "Hey, I'm Micah from the book group," and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right."
I'm like waving at all you guys. Hi, I'm here too.
That's how you get started. They just start like liking things and subtweeting people, etc.
I'll say something and then someone follows me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. You mentioned the Wheel of Time. Are there? Are you reading that? Are there other fantasy books?
I'm in book 2 of Wheel of Time right now, and I also read Brandon Sanderson's Way of Kings and fell in love with that instantly. Because I don't know if you've read Way of Kings, but you need to read.
I have not. I have it on my Kindle, but I have not read it.
It is like pinnacle awesomeness.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. His characters are amazing.
Interesting. He also has a very, like, his magic system is very precise, right? Like
it's a very hard magic system.
Yeah, like there are very set rules to how it's used.
A little bit to settle in, but once you got it, you're like, okay.
Yeah. Y'all have to read We Are Bob. I mean,
We Are Bob.
Yeah.
We Are Bob.
Yep. There's 3 of them. There's 3 of them now, but it gets pretty wild. It's just about it starts off this normal guy. He makes an app and gets rich off of it, but then wants to freeze his body when he dies, and pays for it. And then the second chapter of the first book, it starts off after he's dead. And it's very sci-fi. It's not fantasy at all, but but it's pretty wild.
I'm looking at it right now. We Are Legion. We Are Bob.
Yeah, that's the first one. For We Are Many, I think it's the second one, and then So Many Worlds, the third one.
Interesting.
But they're all really good, and there's supposed to be a fourth.
Good reviews.
Yeah. The writer's fairly unknown, so.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. So.
Huh. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Thank you so much, Micah, for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Tonight. This was a great discussion.
Also, so today is July 7th, so we missed our anniversary.
We did.
Which was yesterday.
We missed our 1 year anniversary.
It's a 1 year anniversary.
As you could tell,
yes.
As you could tell, I dressed up for it.
Brett is wearing a tuxedo shirt.
T-shirt.
Very, very. Like, where's the champagne?
I'm formal, but I'm here to party. And
no, we did. So 1 year ago, yesterday, July 6th. You guys are probably going to be listening to this midweek, but was our 1 year anniversary. We're from when we dropped our very first episode way back when. So, Mikey, you didn't know, but you're partying with us tonight
on year 2.
Oh yeah,
awesome! Glad to be.
You just started. Yeah,
there you go.
Propel. You just started year 2.
That's pretty good with vodka, actually. So
it's not Arbor Gold, but.
All right. So again, Micah, thank you. Let the just remind the listeners one more time where they can find you on Twitter.
Yep, you can hunt me down at Micah_of Clark, and I'm on Facebook at Micah Clark. Good luck finding which one I am.
That wraps us up. We covered 3 minor characters tonight, and we want to thank Micah again for joining us. Micah, you dropped some really great theories on these folks.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the Hyle Hunt one. That's my headcanon now for what's going to happen. And I'll be really mad if George doesn't do that. Because, again, it feels right. That's something that feels very right. As does the Black Walder Frey, but the Hyle Hunt definitely feels right. So thank you all for listening. We're going to be back probably soon with another brand new episode. We're going to wrap up our coverage of, speaking of Dunk and Egg, of The Mystery Night, the final novella of the Dunk and Egg stories. And we'll have a guest hopefully joining us for that to wrap up that discussion. Rate and review us on iTunes, please. That helps spread the word of the podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, on Acast, on Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, Soundcloud, Google Play, many of the platforms out there.
Are we on Acast?
I think Acast is I think it catches. It's one of those that catches the
like Podbean.
iTunes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it catches it. Because I think Pat Spunoggle listens to us maybe on Acast or mentioned that he listens to all of his podcasts on Acast.
Okay.
Or maybe that's
Overcast. I'll download it.
No, it's Overcast. I'm sorry. That's Overcast I'm thinking of. Anyways, we're out there. You can find us.
We're on most everything.
But yeah. We have a lot of platforms we're on. Please follow us on Twitter at Planetos Podcast. Find us on Facebook and like us there, and Instagram as well. And we'll be back. Good night, and we will see you around Planetos. Bye.
Bye, guys.
See ya.